So it's another beautiful day on the battle for Azeroth Beta, and today we're taking a look at the Shadow Priest. So a lot of things are in the works for Shadow Priest, and a lot of things have been nerfed, buffed, reworked, polished, ruined to try and, quotation marks, fix the Shadow Priest. So I'll be going over all the major changes to our spells and abilities, all of our talents, as well as give you my thoughts on how they currently play and how they feel. And a friendly reminder, this is beta footage, so it is subject to change, but it will probably not change all that much. And if you like these kind of videos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and let's get on with the video. So taking a look at our spellbook, a few things have been shifted around here, starting off with Shadow Word Death. It is no longer baseline, instead it's become a talent, which I will go over a bit later. Not sure why they felt the need to take this away, I bet Blizzard have their reasons for it, but I mean, it's such an iconic spell and it's just weird playing without it. Moving on, we've gotten ourselves a raid buff, so Power Word Fortitude is back. It increases the target group or raid's stamina by 10% for 1 hour. So we're back to the old buff please, buff please. And Master Spell has been nerfed a bit, so it now sports a 45-second cooldown instead of 15. And Vampiric Embrace has been buffed, so it's now on a 2-minute cooldown, down from 3 minutes, and it now heals a nearby ally for 85% of any single target shadow spell damage you deal, which is up from previous 40%. And this will just make it even more useful in dungeons and raids. I'm guessing it's Blizzard's way of trying to make Shadow Priest more viable in higher keys, to buff the utility a little bit, but can't say that for sure. And taking a look at our rotational skills, Mindseer has again been removed as a passive, so it's now a channel. You channel it on a target and it pulses out AoE to everything within 10 yards of your target. And it also generates 5 insanity per target hit, so it's a bit easier to just hop right into AoEing with this change. There's no need for any setup, you just Mindseer and go to town on it. Moving on, they buffed Shadow Fiend a bit, so it now generates 3 insanity every time it attacks, which is a pretty nice added bonus, so it's more similar to Mindbender, just at a lesser value. Void Eruption has been reworked a little bit as well, so you can now activate it at 90 insanity down from 100, and it deals shadow damage to all enemies within 10 yards of your target, instead of dealing shadow damage to all enemies who had Shadow Word Pain or Vampiric Touch on them. And Mind Blast now generates 12 insanity down from 15, so a slight nerf. And a few new spells have been added to our mastery, so it now increases the damage of our Shadow Word Pain, Vampiric Touch, Mind Blast, Mind Flay, Mind Sear, Void Eruption, and Void Bolt. And that just bumps up the value of mastery a lot more than it previously did. And Void Form has been nerfed a bit, so it now increases spell damage done by 10% down from 20%. It reduces the cooldown on Mind Blast by 1.5 seconds down from 3 seconds, and it now grants an additional 0.5% haste every 1 second down from 1% haste, so yeah, pretty much half the value. On that note, Void Bolt has been on the receiving end as well, so it now refreshes the duration on Vampiric Touch and Shadow Word Pain by 2 seconds down from 3. And I think that pretty much covers the changes to our spellbook, at least the major things. If I missed anything, just hit me up in the comments below and let the other peeps know. So let's take a look at our talents instead. So starting off with the 15 row, we have Fortress of Mind, Shadowy Insight, and Shadow Word Void. So Fortress of Mind, a passive, Mind Flay and Mind Blast deal 10% more damage and generate 20% more insanity. Not much to say about it. More damage, more insanity. And Shadowy Insight. Shadow Word Pain's periodic damage has a chance to reset the cooldown on Mind Blast and make it instant. So for everyone like me who likes some RNG in their rotation, very unreliable, but very nice when it does proc. And Shadow Word Void replaces Mind Blast, has 2 charges on a baseline 9-second cooldown instead of Mind Blast 7.5. And it deals a bit more damage, around 10% more damage I believe, and it generates 15 insanity up from 12. So charges are always nice, it makes your rotation a bit smoother at times and allows you to pull Mind Blasts or Voids for certain moments. so it doesn't punish you for not instantly casting your Mind Blast or Void when it's off cooldown. But personally I played around the most with Shadowy Insight and Fortress of Mind. So let's take a look at the 30s. We have Body and Soul, and if I'm pronouncing this right, Sand Lion, and Mania. So Body and Soul, your powered shield increases your target's movement speed by 40% for 3 seconds, so it's a nice gotta get the fudge out of the fire panic button. And then we have the Sand Lion, reduces the cooldown of Vampiric Embrace by 45 seconds, and it increases its healing done by 25%, so with that it's on a 1.3 minute cooldown and it heals for 105%, or as my tooltip says, 106% of your single target shadow damage done. So yeah, you can get some pretty crazy healing in a dungeon with this talent. And then we have Mania. It increases our movement speed by up to 35% based on our current insanity. Bit weird, nice time if you're out of void form or when you need to move or running from packs if you have some insanity up. But Body and Soul feels a bit more safe for mobility, and Sand Lion is just damn good for dungeons and raiding if you don't need mobility. Moving on, 45, Twist of Fate, Misery and Dark Void. So, Twist of Fate. After damaging a target below 35% health, you gain 10% increased damage and healing for 8 seconds, so execute-ish. And Misery. Vampiric Touch now also applies Shadow Word Pain to the target, so it just eases up your rotation a bit, making cleave dotting a bit easier and lets your Mind Flay spam even more. And I mean, sure, it's a bit lazy, but it is really nice to play with. And then there's Dark Void. On a 30-sec cooldown, you unleash dark energy around a target, dealing X amount of shadow damage to all enemies, and you apply Shadow Word Pain to all nearby targets. And it also generates 30 insanity. And this talent is just very nice for AoE. It feels great to be able to get Shadow Word Pain up on a lot of targets instantly and just go straight into Mind Sear spam, less tab targeting and more AoE. But as for single target, I mean, they all work, but I'd say Twist of Fate and Misery will work a bit better, and Dark Void being the go-to talent for dungeons, but we'll see when everything is done and done. And then we have the 60s, so Last Word, Mind Bomb and Psychic Horror. So taking a look at Last Word, it reduces the cooldown of Silence by 15 seconds, so if you lack interrupts and need it more often, this is just a great talent. Nice and simple. And taking a look at Mind Bomb, it replaces Psychic Scream. It's on a 30-sec cooldown and you Mind Bomb a target. After 2 seconds, or if the target dies, it fears all enemies within 8 yards of the target for 5 seconds. So it's no longer an AoE stun, it's an AoE fear. I'm not sure what to think of that. I get that they want to bring down stuns overall. I'm just not a huge fan of fears, but that's from a PvE perspective. And then there's Psychic Horror. 45-second cooldown, you terrify the target, stunning them for 4 seconds. So it's a ranged single target stun. And I mean, it comes down to what content you're running really. If you lack interrupt, Last Word will be nice. Mind Bomb might be nice for some added CC or to interrupt a pack of casters or stuff like that. And Psychic Horror if you need some more focused single target stuns. And then we have the 75 row, so Auspicious Spirits, Shadow Word Death, and Shadow Crash. Auspicious Spirits increases the damage done by your shadowy apparitions and they generate 2 insanity. All in all, pretty nice, scales well with gear and works very well in combination with the Dark Void talent. Moving on, taking a look at Shadow Word Death, here it lay. 9-second cooldown, only usable on enemies below 20% health. And it deals X amount of damage, generates 15 insanity and 30 insanity if the target dies from it, and you can have up to 2 charges. So it's more of an execute than Twist of Fate, and it works insanely well during execute phase. You just generate so much more insanity during the execute phase, which means having Void Form up more often and for a longer duration. Should still be baseline in my opinion. Feels weird not having it, not being able to finish off mobs with it and stuff like that. And then there's Shadow Crash. 20-sec cooldown, you hurl a bolt of shadow energy at your enemies, dealing X amount of shadow damage to all targets within 8 yards, and it also generates 20 insanity. And again, this is very nice for AoE. It just speeds everything up. Using this into Dark Void ramps up the AoE damage pretty fast and lets you jump into Void form during AoE a lot faster. Can't say which works the best for single target. I'd assume Shadow Word Death. Auspicious Spirits might scale ahead with gear, but can't say until all the tuning is done. But Shadow Word Death is at least more fun to play with. Moving on, D90, so we have Lingering Insanity, Mindbender, and Void Torrent. So, Lingering Insanity, when Void form ends, its haste bonus fades by 1% every 2 seconds instead of ending immediately, so it just lets us have our haste buff from Void form longer, which is pretty nice in my opinion. So the better you manage your Void form, the bigger the reward, and seeing how we now jump in and out of Void form all the time instead of staying in it for an hour, we keep this haste buff up a lot, and it just makes the rotation feel a lot less clunky. But that's mostly due to getting more haste, because haste on our gear is pretty damn low at the start of an expansion. And then Mindbender, it replaces Shadow Fiend, it's on a 1-minute cooldown, and you summon a Mindbender that attacks the target for 15 seconds, generating 6 insanity every time it attacks. So pretty much you buff your Shadow Fiend. It's very nice if you want to stay a bit longer in Void form or get into Void form faster. And moving on, then we have Void Torrent on a 45-second cooldown, and it requires you to be in Void form. So you channel a torrent of Void energy into the target, dealing X amount of damage over 4 seconds, and more importantly, your insanity does not drain during this channel. So again, it just allows you to stay in Void form for a longer duration. I've been playing the most with Lingering Insanity. As I previously mentioned, it feels nice to have the haste buff up for a longer duration instead of getting out of Void form, and it just feels like you hit the brakes. And then we have the last row, so we have Legacy of the Void, Dark Ascension, and Surrender to Madness. So, Legacy of the Void. Void Eruption's cast time is reduced by 40%, and it may be cast anytime your insanity is 60 or higher. And this just allows us to pop into Void form a lot faster or more frequently, granted with a bit less insanity, but seeing how the insanity decay isn't that big at the start of your Void form, that really isn't an issue. Moving on, Dark Ascension. On a 1-minute cooldown, you immediately activate Void form and deal X amount of damage to all enemies within 10 yards of your target, and you generate 50 insanity. It's pretty fun to play with. Being able to back-to-back Void form or start an encounter with Void form immediately adds a nice flow to the spec. And then there was Surrender to Madness. So this old beast has been reworked a bit to be a little less punishing. So it's on a 4-minute cooldown down from 10 minutes, and all your insanity generating abilities generate 100% more insanity, and you can cast while moving. Lasts for 1 minute, and after 1 minute you take 90% of your maximum HP in damage. So, I mean, it still requires a bit of planning to use. Might not want to use it during high damage phases, and you probably want to warn your healers when that minute is about to end, so you're topped before you take that 90% smack in the face. And it is a lot of fun to play with. I mean, I can't say how good it is compared to the other talents, but it is a lot of fun. And the fact that you will be able to squeeze it in twice during some encounters due to the fact that you don't die horribly from it. But all in all, I'm not sure what Blizzard's end goal is for the Shadow Priest in BFA and what playstyle they want them to go for. I mean, Void form is really hard to keep up for a long duration now. With most talents catered to staying in Void form and popping Surrender to Manage, I managed to get around 40 stacks. And with some proper managing, maybe 50 stacks, I don't know, but it just feels a bit messy for me, because jumping in and out of it all the time is not that fun. Being in Void form for 10 seconds and then out for 10 seconds and then in for etc, etc. It just makes Void form feel less rewarding. It's supposed to be a big deal. I mean, you go into Void form, you spawn tentacles, you're just spamming spells, but with this current iteration it doesn't feel like that. I mean, I'd rather have Void form on a cooldown instead, if that's the case. I mean, either we should be able to keep it up for a long time and then it should take a long time to build it up again, or it should be on a set cooldown, but not this. At least not for me, but that's just personal preference. Other than that, they perform a lot better in dungeons now, having less of a ramp up time and bringing a bit more utility to the group. But overall, I am not a huge fan of the current Shadow Priest, mostly due to how Void form works, but that's just my personal opinion. You guys might love how it works now, so So if you play Shadow in Legion, I would still encourage you to try it out and see for yourself. So yeah, that is pretty much it for this look at the BFA Shadow Priest. If you have any questions at all, make sure to hit me up in the comments below. I try to answer any and all questions as well as I can. And as always, if you like these kind of videos and want to see more, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave me a like and ring that notification bell and switch it to all. Thanks for watching and I will see you next time.